The lockdown backlash begins. Los Angeles wants you to cancel everything. Florida, however, holds the line for freedom. Trump spends 45 minutes attacking voter fraud, and no more exotic emotional support animals on planes. Welcome to the Sexton Show, everyone. Oh my, that's right. Here we are at a point where we now see the numbers for COVID cases higher than they've been since April. We're seeing spikes in hospitalization. We're seeing high levels of day-to-day deaths from COVID-19. And the people who were celebrating over the summer in places like California, celebrating what a great success they were in stopping this virus because of their masking and their lockdowns, now have no answer other than lock down even more. Do more of what we've said you have to do for months, and just ignore the fact that anyone who's observing what's happening here could not come away from this believing that this stuff actually works. Now, that's not the same thing as saying that a mask cannot help you in any circumstance, or that if you stayed home and avoided all human contact, you would be safe from the virus. I'm talking about government policy, government mandates, government's use of force to shut down your business and keep you in your home and limit your freedom of travel, your freedom to operate day to day. Is that working? Is it helpful? Or does it just make everything worse? Does it take out of individual hands the right to make your own health decisions for a pandemic that the government clearly, flatly, obviously cannot stop? Can it be any more obvious at this point? What else has to happen? New York, California, places that have been touting how we came together and listened to the science. That's what they were saying. Yeah? Did we stop listening to the science suddenly in the last 60 days? No, we did not. Maybe there's another issue here. Maybe there's another problem. People are starting to see what's really happening here. They can't hide it from you anymore. So what they're going to do is insist you obey and use force. They're going to send men with guns from sheriff's offices, local police departments, health department. I don't know if they're armed or not. Depends on where you are, maybe. They're going to send people with the force of the state behind them to make you do things that aren't even provable as good ideas. That's what they're going to do. And we're all supposed to accept this now. Now, you might say, well, Buck, the government does a lot of things. The government takes money from me in taxes. Yeah, but there are guarantees, you see. There are constitutional guarantees of due process, of equal protection, of the free exercise of religion, of freedom of assembly. And these have been completely trampled over by these idiot tyrants who are overwhelmingly Democrats at the state and local level. They do it all across the country. It's terrible here in New York City. It's awful in Los Angeles, Boston, Chicago, Atlanta, name a city. A major city with Democrat control, and I'll show you a place that has shown no ability whatsoever to control COVID-19, but wants even more authority, wants even more power now to make you submit, to make you obey. In Staten Island, this is one of the 5 boroughs of New York City, perhaps the least known. It's the least populated, and it has much more in common with New Jersey than Manhattan proper. Great place. I like Staten Island a lot. They had a bar and restaurant for Max Public House. I spoke to his lawyer last night. They had a rally where they just gathered together and they said, enough is enough. Here's what they did to Max Public House. They sent sheriffs in because this guy had said on social media, I can't continue to have my business destroyed. So they sent sheriffs in, 20 of them. They arrested him. They arrested him and wrote up multiple citations because he's in a red zone or an orange zone or whatever the color of the zone is. He's in a zone designated as too dangerous for indoor dining. But 2 blocks away, there are other businesses, his competitors, who are in a more free zone on the same island. So they get to make money and feed their families. Max Public House does not. And he just says this is capricious and arbitrary. This is bull crap. That's what it is. There's no science to justify this. There's no, oh, look at the data, it'll tell you. No. This is idiot politicians who can't control this thing, who have been wrong at every phase of the pandemic, who only view the answer as one thing. It's the same thing every time. They do more. They do more stuff. They have more power, more infringements, more dictates, more mandates. And so the backlash in Staten Island has begun. Hundreds of people gathered together there. What about other places? Well, you think of the states that have had the most extreme restrictions and have also been the states, generally speaking, with the worst COVID results. California, perhaps an exception, which I think has more to do with climate, meaning the weather, not like climate change, the weather in California and the fact that people aren't as densely populated, even in the major cities there, as they are on the East Coast and in some of the central Midwestern cities like Chicago and Detroit. But the states with the worst records dealing with COVID are New York, Michigan, New Jersey. These are blue as blue can be places. Well, Michigan maybe a little less so, but Detroit is where most of the COVID cases were happening, most of the fatalities. And California is now having a massive surge, as we know. So we look at what's going on and we understand that the regulations, the rules that they've put in place clearly have not had the intended effect. So you know what they're doing? They want more regulations as a result. Here is the mayor of Los Angeles who's just telling you, shut it down, shut it all down. Play 6.
The choices between us are stark. Between health and sickness, between care and apathy, and yes, between life and death for too many of the people that we love. My message couldn't be simpler. It's time to hunker down. It's time to cancel everything. And if it isn't essential, don't do it. Don't meet up with others outside your household. Don't host a gathering. Don't attend a gathering. And following our targeted safer at home order, if you're able to stay home, stay home.
This is equivalent to a public official telling you, really just stop living your life. And keep in mind, they'll say for a week or two. It's not a week or two. It's the next 60 to 90 days. Do you want to make that trade-off? Even more important question, do you think the government should be able to force you to make that trade-off? Of the people listening to this, just Americans, you have a across all age groups, I believe it's a 99.7% chance of surviving if you get COVID. 3 out of 1,000 people who get COVID could die from it. And that includes people in their 80s and 90s in that sample size. If you're under the age of 50, your chance of dying from this is less than your chance of dying if you got seasonal flu. That's a fact. You want to stay at home and give up the next 60 to 90 days of living life? And let me ask you this. Do you think that's worked so far? Do you think that's stopped this? They just keep trying to constrict, keep trying to put more pressure and just squeeze down on this. It doesn't work. It's obvious it doesn't work. But they hope and pray, not that the kind of people that call for this stuff really pray in earnest, but they hope that you won't notice, that you'll just be scared and you'll listen and you'll do as you are told. That's really what this is about. Do as you're told, peasant. Don't ask any questions. That's what Garcetti wants. Yeah, people are scared, but there are other people who aren't scared. I go into an office every day. Every day. I'm traveling. I'm moving around the city. I go into an office every day. I try to be careful around older family members, and I'm very attuned to whether or not I have any symptoms. I get tested if I think there's a concern. That's it. That's the only thing that I think a reasonable person can do. And I'm in the most densely populated part of the country. Okay, I'm in the middle of the biggest city in America that had the most COVID deaths of any place in America, and I'm telling you, I want to live my life. And I do. I'm not hunkered down. I go out to the stores. I go to my office every day now. I tape a TV show every day now. This is what I'm doing. And I don't want to stop. And I don't think that these idiots in charge have the right to make me stop. And as importantly, they're wrong about what will happen if they make me stop. Do we live in a free country or not? We're starting to have to ask this question. Do we live in a free country? If your mayor or your governor can tell you you're not allowed to leave your home except under specifically defined circumstances, you certainly can't gather together with other human beings. You can't have a wedding. You can't have a funeral. You can't open your business, your restaurant, your shop, your store. The answer is we don't live in a free country. We need to face up to that. We need to look at this and deal with the reality. It's time to say enough. Not everyone's going to do it. Not everyone's going to push back. But you know what they can do? They can look down to Florida, where I'm not saying it's some utopia down there, although the weather is very nice. But they're doing better than New York City. They're doing better than California right now in this fight against COVID. No mask mandates. No mandates. You want to wear a mask? Wear a mask. But they're not having the government ram this down people's throats. They're not shutting down businesses all across the board. And they're doing a little bit better. Think about this, though. They should be much worse. According to what the lockdowners say, Florida should just be, oh my gosh, pandemonium for the pandemic, right? It's not the case. Why? Why is that observable? I'm not telling you, this is not just my analysis. You can see it. Look at the numbers. It's because the people who have been taking away your freedom this whole time and promising you safety in return have been lying to you. We all know this is going to be a different and difficult holiday season. There are a lot of people that I would normally want to see in my family, in my life, and I can't because a lot of travel restrictions and concerns out there. But there's a way that you can bring some joy, send some love to people by sending them Bloomsy Box. It's incredible. I use this delivery service. I've given these flowers to my girlfriend. I've given them to family members. They're so fresh. They will stay in bloom for weeks in your home. Amazing. Bloomsy Box are simply better blooms. When you see the look on someone's face when they get them sent to them, you're going to love this. And there's an incredible discount right now for people who listen to this show. Go to bloomsybox.com, enter code BUCK to get 15% off and free shipping. That's BLOOMSY, bloomsybox.com. Enter code BUCK for 15% off and free shipping. You're going to love these flowers. Send some love to people that you can't see right now, but you want to cheer up and send some holiday spirit to. Michigan is one of the states that's been hit the hardest by COVID, mostly in and around Detroit, but Michigan overall has had a tough time with it. And Gretchen Whitmer has been among the most extreme governors. Right? She's one that wants to make her mark by telling everybody that they can't even go from one home they own to another home they own. Not allowed. Maybe you'll infect somebody in your car by yourself. Idiotic, of course, but there are people in Michigan, as well as many other states, who are starting to see all of these failures, all of these shortcomings, and they've had enough. They're sick of it. In central Michigan, there's a guy who went on a rant on a local TV station. He's a restaurant owner who interrupted a local TV report. And I want you to, this is a little bit of a longer clip. I want you to hear the whole thing by this guy. Here's just an American. Here's a guy who showed up probably 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Restaurant hours are long and hard. He's been there, scrubbing pots and pans, telling his staff they got to show up. They got to get the meal out, fire up that chicken, get that burger cooked properly. I mean, restaurant work is hard. As friends of mine, people I know will tell you at any opportunity, it looks glamorous on TV. It's not. Depends depending on whether you're doing the chef side of it or the server side of it. A lot of long hours on your feet. It's not easy stuff. And to be a restaurant owner, you're in it. You're in that fight every day. You got to deal with customers. You got to deal with their whims and their fits. So when you've built a restaurant that's able to pay the bills, you know what? You're a success. You've beaten the odds. And this guy has a successful business that's being destroyed. It's being taken from him by tyrannical bureaucrats. And he's in Central Michigan. He's had enough. And this is what he had to say. Play 12.
The details on why the judge said no.
Here on this cafe.
Various, is everything okay?
Okay.
Our government leaders have abandoned me.
Are you the owner?
$4 trillion of stimulus money. They gave it to who? Special interest groups and campaign donors. I'm Dave Morris. I own the place.
So what's going on?
What's going on? You know what's going on.
Tell me. You tell me.
Hey, we got a government that has taken the stimulus money. They gave it to special campaign donors. They gave it to special interests. They abandoned me, and they have put me in a position where I have to fight back. Okay?
So do you feel that this is the right thing to do?
Absolutely. I feel everybody needs to stand up. Hey, listen, there was enough money to give every family in this country $20,000 to go home for 2 months. They chose to give it to special interests and campaign donors, the Kennedy Space Center, and they abandoned us. So you could have given me money. I'd gladly walk away for 60 days and let this virus settle down. I'm not going to do it alone. Okay?
Are you going to continue to violate the state's orders and stay open?
State order. This isn't an order. This is a conspiracy. This is a tyranny.
What do you want to tell other restaurant owners who...
Wake up. Stand up. This is America. Be free. I got patriots coming out supporting me.
Wake up, stand up. This is America. Be free. That's Dave Morris, restaurant owner in Central Michigan. My government leaders have abandoned me, he says. That's true. They have mandated that he shut down his business. No more income. Ruined all the hard work he put into it. He's falling behind on rent, I'm sure, for the location. It's unlikely he owns it. Staff members that he might have trained and worked with have had to go and find other work, or perhaps they're at home on unemployment. It's a mess. And for what? Because this works so well? Because shutting down human contact has stopped this virus in its tracks? Who believes that at this point? Who really thinks that's true? Based on what? Look at where we are now versus where we were before they were going into all these lockdowns. You're going to tell me it's such a better situation? Notice that they can't decide, depending on which news outlet you check at any moment. If they see one area where cases have gone down a little bit in the last week, it's, oh, see, all of our lockdowns have worked. If they see that cases have gone up a little bit, it's, oh, people didn't listen to us over Thanksgiving. There's no honesty in the assessment of these figures and numbers. There's no honesty in how they're looking at these lockdowns. I'll tell you this, even a lot of conservative jurists and a lot of conservative politicians, for sure, are cowards. There are constitutionalist judges who are cowards right now on this because nobody wants to be the one who says the government can't protect you from this virus. It will pretend and do a lot of damage by pretending, but it is up to you and your family to find what works best for you, to protect yourself, to make your own decisions. You can listen to all these mandates. You can listen to everything they're telling you and go for an essential doctor's visit, go to the hospital because you have to get something checked out that has nothing to do with COVID and have a nosocomial infection. You could go to the grocery store and sure enough, somebody there is infected too because this is the place where we're all gathering and you can still get infected. I understand that they say this is meant to mitigate your chances of getting infected, but how much is that really working and what's the cost? Mitigated by what degree? I mean, if I told you that your chance of getting COVID-19, it went down by 5%, would it be worth all these lockdowns? Why can't we have a trade-offs discussion? I recently got a crash course in home title theft, and look, you got to make sure you take precautions now because this can be economically, financially devastating. It's a crime that goes after your most valuable asset, your home. Here's how it works. The bad guys, cyber thieves, they find your home's title online, then they use a quit claim deed to kick you off, put themselves on, and then they start taking out loans against the equity in your home. You often won't find out about this until you receive payment demands in the mail, perhaps even a foreclosure notice. You have to take action with the people that I trust, the experts in this area at Home Title Lock. All you have to do is go to HomeTitleLock.com, enter the promo code RADIO, and that will get you 30 free days of protection. You can also check online at the site to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it yet. That can happen. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. Take action today. Protect your home with a virtual barrier at Homes Title Lock.
Well, in Florida, Tucker, as you mentioned, all businesses are open. We've had things like theme parks, beaches open for months and months. We have schools open, all K through 12 school districts, private schools, charter schools. We have sporting events. And I think that for me, I think as you alluded to, a lot of these lockdowns have been very ineffective. They have huge negative consequences. And my view is that everybody's essential. Who is government to say that your job is not essential? I think it is essential. I think some of the stuff in March and April didn't work. I think you have to let people earn a living. And it's really not even government's role to say who could pick and choose. So we want everyone to have gainful employment. We want businesses to be able to operate.
So they're open. Florida's still functioning as a relatively normal society. There you're hearing from Ron DeSantis, the governor. There is another way, friends. That's what I'm saying. And they just ignore it because the people that have pushed these lockdowns, they think they're so smart. Oh, they think they're so much smarter than all the rest of us. Oh, and they've got a bunch of Biden voting blue check MDs who will say, we listen to the science. Yeah, I can see with my own eyes what's happening. I don't need someone to tell me the science. Looking at the most recent data, coronavirus cases, mind you, if you look at the fatality rate, New York is still far worse than Florida. But if you look at cases as of, let me see, yesterday, you got about 8,000 COVID-19 cases in Florida, and you've got, let me see here, 8975 in New York. And you got, 88, 47 in Florida the last couple of days. I'm just to give you a sense of the numbers. So you got about the same number of cases in New York, same number of cases in Florida. And these are states with close to the same population. Florida is actually more populous than New York by a couple of million. So what exactly is New York gaining? In what way is New York doing such a great job with orange zones and red zones and shutting down businesses? Cases are the same. So we are running the experiment right now in real time. Florida is run by people like Ron DeSantis who are saying, let's look at what's actually happening and deal with what we're seeing in real life. New York is, I'm Governor Cuomo. I listen to the science. If you don't listen to me, you want your grandparents to die. Because I'm very sciencey. I listen to a lot of science. That's what's going on. We all understand. All you have to do is think for yourself, and you will come to the conclusion that the people who have pushed these lockdowns are living in a fantasy. Remember, the alternative to lockdown is not go out to a crowded bar as soon as possible if you're a senior citizen and let people cough in your face, right? They always set up this straw man. The alternative to lockdown is put out all the public health messaging you can about things people can do to try to mitigate, but then allow individuals to make choices. Allow them to decide whether they want to go to a restaurant and eat indoors or not, whether they want to go to a store and buy something or not. Life is at your own risk. That's the way we should be allowed to live. But that's certainly not what's happening right now. No, we're having all these dictates and mandates just foisted upon us. We were under this tyrannical yoke of idiots who think that they know so much more than they do about how to make this better. I would love to see the CDC director try to explain why Florida and New York have about the same number of cases when one is, you heard the governor. Schools are open. Businesses are open. No mask mandates. If a business owner wants you to wear a mask, they can put up a wear a mask sign, and that's a private premises. And if they want that, fine. I'm not unreasonable. But you see, in New York, every business requires it as a function of law from the government. They didn't make a choice. Some of them might want it. Some of them might not. You have to do it. See, that's the mandate part of this. That's the force you. All based upon this highly specious argument that this is a game changer for stopping the pandemic spread. It's clearly not. What happened in Los Angeles? Why is California exploding with cases? Oh, California was all about masks. All about masks. Remember when they would have mass gatherings for BLM protests or for Biden victories? Well, they were wearing masks. Oh, okay. What happened? They stopped wearing masks? No. So what's their explanation for this? It gets colder out. Oh, human behavior changes because it gets a little colder. California's not that much colder. Just saying. So what's their explanation? They don't have one. They don't have one. Their explanation is mask up, shut up, do what you're told. That's all they have to say to you. And the CDC director is entirely unhelpful in this regard. Play 7.
The time for debating whether or not masks work or not is over. We clearly have scientific evidence. You couple that with social distancing, hand washing, being smart about crowds, doing things more outside than inside. These are critical mitigation steps which to many people seem simple and they don't really think it could have much of an impact. But the reality is they're very, very powerful tools. They have an enormous impact. And right now it is so important that we recommit ourselves to this mitigation as we now begin to turn the corner with the vaccine. But the reality is December and January and February are going to be rough times. I actually believe they're going to be the most difficult time in the public health history of this nation, largely because of the stress that's going to put on our healthcare system.
Wait, but we're going to do all the mitigation. So how do you know it's going to be the worst winter we've ever had in public health? I don't understand. Notice this doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. How he says it's very powerful tools. A very powerful tool is everybody masks up, everybody social distances in, let's just say, one city, and cases drop 30%, 50% within a couple of weeks. That's a powerful tool. Does anyone think that's going to happen? Oh, no. Maybe it slows the rate, not even the full duration, slows the rate of the spread, meaning the speed, the velocity of spread by what, 5%, 10%? Okay, well, how many businesses are you willing to bankrupt? How many suicides are you willing to, essentially push people toward? How much depression and despair, and how many seniors die alone in hospitals, die alone in nursing homes because they're not allowed to see their loved ones and they haven't been able to for a long time? I just want to know, at what cost for that 5% slower spread or 10? And I'm making up the numbers, but see, I tell you, I'm honest when I say I'm just taking guesses. That's what they are doing too. Don't you think if the CDC director and all these journos out there had clear evidence, don't you think that they would present it? We would all know what it is. Where is this? And notice he said evidence, not proof. I want proof. You're going to have government mandates. You're going to destroy businesses and ruin lives because you say you're protecting lives by having a government mandate to shut down some businesses. Remember, it's not all businesses. If they did a full-on lockdown, everyone must stay home. You cannot leave. We will arrest you on sight. Yeah, that would bring the spread down. I'm sure within 2 weeks you'd see 80% drop or 70% drop, maybe more. But here's the problem with that. society would crumble. People would freak out. How do we get people what they need? How do we get essential day-to-day needs tended to if you can't even leave your home? We don't have the infrastructure for that. We have no way of getting everyone food. You're going to tell people they need to just starve for 2 weeks? It's lives at stake. Most Americans have a little reserves in the belly. They'll be okay, right? Now, I understand this is just a thought experiment, but think through it. Let's say we did that. Let's say we listened to them. We went to the most extreme possible version of the mitigation, as Fauci calls it. 2 weeks, no one's allowed to leave their home. You're going to be arrested on site. And we bring that curve way down. We crush that curve. Then what happens? Okay, we did our 2 weeks. So then now we can go out a little bit. Right now we can start going to stores and and what happens then? Oh, that's right. The virus starts spreading all over again. And they'll say, oh, no, but let's try to, titrate this. Let's try to mitigate this a little bit. No, doesn't work. It's going to spread. The only way to get this thing to stop spreading is to get human beings to not be in contact with each other and not live their lives at all. That's it. All this other stuff of, oh, you can only go here, but you can't go there. You can wear a mask going to the bathroom in the restaurant, but not when you sit down in the restaurant. You can go to a restaurant outside, but you can't go to a restaurant inside, unless you're Gavin Newsom, and then you can go to French Laundry with 10 people because you're special, right? We see what's going on here. We understand what's happening. Don't let them bully you into foregoing your own ability to think these problems through. President Trump spent 45 minutes giving a speech yesterday, laying out all of his concerns and, yes, allegations about voter fraud in this election. I watched it, and I went and read through the transcript afterwards to make sure I'm as up to speed as possible on absolutely all of what's happening here. I'm talking to people in the campaign legal team and others who are doing data crunching for them, because this is a lot of complicated issues. And I keep saying this, time is not on our side. It is now the first week of December. This is going to be, I'm just telling you, this is going to be over and done with based on the system right now before the new year. That's what's likely to happen unless you get a judge between now and then to make a really big decision. Now, I think Pennsylvania, as I've told you, is the strongest place for there to be a real legal challenge that would either decertify the vote because it cannot be certified because they cannot prove that it was done fairly and legally. But I think that a judge will be a very high bar to meet. And look, I'm just telling you the truth. I know right now, and I want you all to be aware of this, there is a little bit of a squabbling from the scraps from the MAGA table going on in conservative media. And there are some people who figure it doesn't matter what I do between now and the end of January. All that really, what I say, how wrong I may be, all that matters is that I seem like I'm the real fighter. Look, I'm telling you that Trump needs to fight this thing to the end, but I'm also realistic. I'm coming at this with open eyes about the chances of success. They're not zero, but they're not high. People are welcome to criticize me, tell me that I'm wrong. I hope those people, especially those who have been following me or known me for years, will come back if I'm right, which, as we all know, well, I won't say it, but come back and tell me, wow, you were right. We fought it, but your prediction on the chances here. And now, why does it matter what the chance is? It matters because we need to manage our expectations. We need to understand that this Georgia runoff on January 5th, we better damn sure get out there with everything we've got as conservatives. Every Republican in the state of Georgia needs to go out there and vote. And we need to make sure that there's not fraud going on there. We still have a battle to fight here, friends. Even if Trump wins, we've got a battle to fight. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So now I'll let you hear from the president. This was part of his statement. Play one.
This may be the most important speech I've ever made.
I want to provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place during the ridiculously long November 3rd elections. We used to have what was called Election Day. Now we have election days, weeks and months, and lots of bad things happened during this ridiculous period of time, especially when you have to prove almost nothing to exercise our greatest privilege, the right to vote. As president, I have no higher duty than to defend the laws and the Constitution of the United States. That is why I am determined to protect our election system, which is now under coordinated assault and siege.
President saying here that it is his duty as commander-in-chief to make sure that he looks into this with everything that he can, that they do the due diligence, the investigation, and they present facts, both in a court of law and a court of public opinion. And the president continued, play 2.
For months leading up to the presidential election, we were warned that we should not declare a premature victory. We were told repeatedly that it would take weeks, if not months, to determine the winner, to count the absentee ballots, and to verify the results. My opponent was told to stay away from the election. Don't campaign. We don't need you. We've got it. This election is done. In fact, they were acting like they already knew what the outcome was going to be. They had it covered, and perhaps they did, very sadly for our country. It was all very, very strange. Within days after the election, we witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint a winner, even while many key states were still being counted. The constitutional process must be allowed to continue. We are going to defend the honesty of the vote by ensuring that every legal ballot is counted and that no illegal ballot is counted. This is not just about honoring the votes of 74 million Americans who voted for me. It's about ensuring that Americans can have faith in this election and in all future elections.
It is about that. The president has a duty here. Despite what all the media is saying and their claims that he's crazy and this is insane and this is a coup and, you know, all the hysterics from them. I'm actually almost impressed that they haven't exhausted themselves with their Trump is destroying the republic and all the hyperventilating. You would think after a while it would just get tiresome for them, but it's not. There is a case being presented today in Nevada about voter fraud alleged to have occurred there. We've already seen the case presented in Michigan and in Arizona and in Pennsylvania. And now it's battlefield Georgia that a lot of people are focused on. We stay in this fight, friends, win or lose.